Good morning, welcome to another video of Nigel Short. Played again in the Brighton International Open, the first round. Played against an Israeli Grandmaster, Jacob Murey, who was actually a second for Viktor Korchnoi in a 1978 World Championship match. The game started with a Sicilian defence. And the Fianchetto variation. Here Black could opt to trade the queens with queen to a6, which is a playable line, but decides against it. Here Nigel decides to castle queenside, leading to a very sharp position. The beginning of the pawn onslaught on the king side, aiming to prevent the pawn storm. Maybe not so necessary, but does give the bishop at the g7 square. Kicking the knight and continuing the pawn storm. Black opts to castle queenside to get away from the pawn storm on the king side. In the weak b6 square, and this knight is aiming for the b6 square. Obviously, if Black takes the knight at this point, then the bishop would recapture, winning the exchange. An excellent move from Nigel in the centre. This leads to quite a lot of complications. If Black takes the knight, the following variation could occur. A good move from Black, because if the white king takes the bishop, then knight to a4 removes the knight from the threat of the bishop and allows Black to recapture the d pawn. Here White has a slight advantage due to his activity of his pieces. So Black decides not to take the knight, but plays the maybe inferior bishop to f8, which allows White to break open the centre and has quite a nice advantage. The dubious exchange sacrifice. I think the better option would have been queen to f3, pinning the knight. And the point of it is, it's now threatening knight to a5. So if Black takes the knight, then knight to a5 can now be played check due to the pin on c6. And the king has to retreat to say c6. And here White has a nice advantage, full of attacking options, and definitely more playable than the exchange sacrifice that he did play. I'm not sure if Nigel foresaw the next move. He probably did, but the only good move now for black is to actually give up the queen for the rook and the knight, as we shall see in the game. And this leads to a very interesting position with rook and two rooks and two minor pieces against queen and two minor pieces. Black is actually material ahead, but the engine thinks that white is slightly better at this point. Centralising the rook. This actually threatens b4 and an eventual knight fork. So Nigel stops it. I think b4 could have been played there anyway, leading to an equal position after b4, c4, knight to e7, which is a good move, utilising the pin, and knight to d2, and this is a completely equal position. However, black played a5. White knight retreats. The black knight retreats, aiming for f5. Threatening to win the black knight on a4, eventually with king to b3 at some point. This is actually quite an equal position now. Black forces the trade of bishop for knight with the next check, or the next check in a moment. And the game is equal in material now with the capture of that pawn. And the h2 pawn. b4 is the only square that black and king can go. Obviously can't go to e4 due to rook to e2 check. And this actually turns out to be the losing move for black. The point is that the white king can advance forward now, whereas maybe rook to f5 should have been played to prevent the king from going forward. This causes black all kinds of problems throughout the rest of the game, as the pin on the knight and the white knight can enter the attack as well. This is actually forced. The white king continues to move forward. The only move really to try and stem the flow, but Nigel finds a good move in knight to e8, threatening knight to c7 check, followed by the capture of the b pawn. Knight to c7 check can still be played anyway, and in reality forces the black to give up the rook for the knight. Here black takes the g pawn, which actually leads to a loss, although his position was lost anyway. But this actually creates a mating net, and eventually will win the b pawn and ultimately the game. Threatening obviously queen to b7 mate. The only move the black can play. And this is actually the last move of the game. Threatening to win the b pawn, threatening to checkmate on b6. So black would have to play rook to b7. Whereas queen takes b5, threatening to win the knight. Black has to check. But once the king moves out of the way, the knight's got nowhere to go, and the game is white. Hope you enjoyed it. Still learning to do the commentary, but